In this tutorial, I'm going to be sewing together our utility joggers, which is shown here. This is in size 3/4 today. To begin, we're going to cut out our fabric pieces. So I have my pocket pieces here, my waistband, my leg, and my ankle cuff. So my ankle cuff is the only one I'm going to cut out in a rib. So I'll just place that aside and start with the others. And I'm also going to cut out my elastic piece, which for my 3 to 4 size is 19 inches. And I'm going to cut it a little bit slimmer just because the pants, the boy I'm sewing these pants for is a little bit slimmer. So I'm going to cut it at 18 inches instead. We'll start sewing by putting the pockets together. These are the 2 pocket tabs up at the top. And so these are laying right sides together. And you're going to have to do a straight stitch around these 3 edges at 3/8 of an inch. And then you'll also fold the top of your pocket down 1/2 of an inch and top stitch it. And you can press it if that helps you before you do that. Now on your pocket tabs, you're going to want to trim some of that seam allowance. So I'll just trim it down and then trim the corners. And then you'll turn this tab right side out. And so the next step you're going to do is take it to the sewing machine and top stitch those 3 closed edges. And you'll see me throughout the tutorial lifting this presser foot with my thumb, and that's just to prevent it from pushing that fabric and stretching it out. For the pocket base now, you're going to want to turn it so the wrong side is up and fold the edges in about 1/2 of an inch. And then you'll press them to hold them there. And now to place the pockets on your legs, I find that the easiest way for me is actually cutting this placement out on the pattern and then placing the pocket on top of it. And that should fit just right inside there. And if it doesn't, you just get the general feel, pull it off, and then you can pin it. Now with the pocket base sewn on, you'll take your pocket tab, which is the top portion, and you have that raw edge, and you're just going to line that raw edge basically on top of that pocket. So then we're going to do a straight stitch at a little over 1/4 of an inch there to hold it, and then after that's done, we will fold it down and then top stitch here to secure. So then you see when you'll open, and then we'll do some trimming after that. So you can see the tops have been secured now, and I just open the flap and then trim this edge here to make it look clean. Now that our pockets are done, we're going to start with the front rise. So you'll match your legs right sides together here. I'm going to trim these. So you'll match that front rise together, and for the front rise we're going to have to just use the sewing machine because of these tight curves here. So I'm going to use the sewing machine, straight stitch down at 1/4 of an inch here, and then I'm going to go over it a second time just to make sure that seam is really secure. Open up your pants now so you can see that front rise sewn shut, and you're going to mark where that fly is. So here is where the seam stops, so you can just place a pin there on top of that seam allowance, and then you'll want your fly to go generally that direction, so it would be your right. And to mark that seam allowance, just use a few pins. Just feel it out. Do one at the top. Kind of midway. And then right at the curve. Because we're going to top stitch this now, and you want your curve to look nice, and you also want it to be on top of the seam allowance. So what I like to do is you're going to be using your straight stitch again. I like to go down, curve, pivot here, come up, back up, so it looks like a double stitch coming down. And then after that's done, you'll do a stitch here just to secure the top to make it lay flat in the waistband portion. After that front rise is complete, then you're gonna match the back rise with the right sides of fabric together. And with this one, you'll serge them closed. Now with the front and back rise sewn together, then you're going to find your inseams. Line those up, and you'll serge them closed from ankle to ankle. Next, we're going to place our waistband. So your legs are completed besides the cuffs. So to start with our waistband, we're going to have this. This is your waistband, folded in half, parallel to the grain line. And you'll just serge this end closed. And then you'll take your elastic and overlap it about 1/2 inch and straight stitch it in an N shape to secure it. After those are closed, you'll put your waist elastic over the wrong side of the waistband, and then you'll just kind of fold your waistband around it, and then you can pin that fabric together in a few places. And now you'll place the waistband inside your pant waist. So your pants are inside out still, and you're going to take your waistband seam and match that up with that back waist seam. And pin the 3 layers of the fabric together. And you're going to make sure you keep that elastic completely out of your seams. You can kind of stagger these seams too so it doesn't get too bulky. And then with your waistband notch, you'll pin that to this front notch on your waistband, or on your pants waist. And then you stretch it, and you can pin in a couple more places if you like. And now you'll take this to the serger and serge this waistband on all the way around, and you'll just stretch one portion at a time. So it's fairly easy because that elastic is going to stay inside, and this waistband doesn't need to be stretched too much to fit the waist. So you just start one portion at a time, stretch it a little bit to fit, and then stretch the next portion, and then the next, and all the while you're just kind of pushing that elastic to the other sides of the waistband that you're not sewing. And our next step is going to be inserting the ankle cuffs. So grab your ankle cuffs, and these are going to get sewn in half or folded in half parallel to the grain line, and if there's a right side, it would be right sides together. And you're going to serge that edge closed. Now with the sides closed, you will fold the cuffs into the cuff shape. So it would be folded, wrong sides will be together, and that serge seam will be folded onto itself. And you'll have your pants inside out. And you'll place your cuff folded edge inside into the ankle portion. And you'll want to make sure this seam is either towards the back or lined up with that side seam. Or lined up with the inseam, I'm sorry. So do the same on the other one. And all you're going to do now is just stretch that ankle cuff to fit the ankle and serge it on all the way around. Now with your ankle cuffs inserted, you can turn the pants right side out. And your ankles should look like that. And if you're going to insert a drawstring, this would be the time to do it. So the easiest way to do that is just to clip a teeny little hole right at the center through that first layer of fabric. And then about 1.5 inches distance, do another one. You take your drawstring, place a safety pin on one end, and just thread it through on top of the elastic. And now you can just pull it trim it how you like, knot the ends. And then regardless of if you did a drawstring or not, you're going to want to, at the center back, do a lock stitch on top of the elastic in the waistband. That's maybe 3/4 of an inch long to 1 inch long here. And that's just to hold the waistband in place so that the elastic doesn't twist. But it's also, if you did do drawstring, then to just hold that drawstring in place. You can finish your pants here, and you don't have to set snaps, but if you are going to set snaps, you can set either 1 in the middle or 2 on each end. So I'll show you setting 2 on each end. So you're going to want to just kind of feel out where you're going to place the snaps. It's going to be about right here. About right here. And so I'll set my ring on the inside of the pocket. And if you can, set it on top of that seam allowance of your pocket, because that'll give it a decent amount of stability on the inside. Otherwise, you may want to set a little piece of extra fabric just to give you that added stability. So you'll just repeat the same thing for the other side. Now the snaps are complete, and all you have to do is iron the pants. To finish them. And that's the utility jogger in size 3/4.